statement. And then there are two other reference files which are marked W5A and W5B.
That is correct.
Yes. We will then use those three files in leading your evidence. Thank you. Mr. Giane, do you confirm that the document that appears on page numbers 1, which are marked MJJ01 up to MJJ22 on exhibit W3, is the statement that you made for this commission?
That is correct.
And do you confirm the signature that appears on page 22 of that document to be your signature?
Yes, I confirm.
Before you confirm the correctness of this document, are there any corrections that you intend to make on this document?
Yes, I do have some corrections to make.
Please take us there.
You'll just have to raise your voice, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay.
If you go to page 9,
Yes.
at the top of the page, where the ending of paragraph 28, I want to make a correction that ESA capital is spelled incorrectly. It should be ESA capital with the I instead of the E.
Yes.
And wherever ESA capital appears as E, can we correct it to I? I don't know whether you want us to go through each and every paragraph.
We can go through. I see it on paragraph 33.
Well, let's start with 29,
Awesome.
paragraph 29,
Yes.
and paragraph 30, and paragraph 33,
Yes.
and paragraph 35,
It's 2 times in paragraph 35.
sorry, Chair.
It looks like there are 2 areas in paragraph 35 where the correction should be made. Line 2 and line 3. Or is it different people?
No, it's different people, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which one of those should be corrected?
We are correcting ESA capital as E
Oh,
SSAR to
Oh.
I SSAR.
Oh,
The
okay.
line
Thank
2
you.
of paragraph 35.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That is the first correction.
Yes. What will be your next correction?
My next correction is on page 17,
Yes.
paragraph 5, 6, where it reads West Dawn. I want it to be corrected to West Dawn Investments as one word, West Dawn Investments.
So where it says Western Dawn,
That's correct.
it should be West Dawn.
West Dawn as one word, Investments.
Yes. And that appears twice in that paragraph.
That's correct.
It's on the
Paragraph,
third line from the bottom of the
paragraph
paragraph.
56, yeah.
On paragraph 56. Thank you.
My next correction is on page 18,
Yes.
paragraph 60,
Yes.
where it reads, at various on the first line, can that be changed to at one management meeting, not meetings?
So the S that is on second line, we also delete
Also
it.
to be corrected.
Okay. Are there any other corrections?
Yes, the last two is on page 21,
Yes.
on paragraph 73.
Yes.
I want to change that subsequently to read as follows. Subsequently, VRLS was shortlisted and engagements directly with Denel commenced.
So we should delete the tender came out and
Replace it with the following, Chair.
VRLS
VRLS
was shortlisted.
shortlisted and engagements directly with Denel commenced.
So we deleted the words, the tender came out and we deleted the words included in the entities tendering for the project. And the sentence now reads, after the correction, subsequently, VRLS was shortlisted and engagements with Denel commenced.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
The next one is on paragraph 74. It's just a small change. When it came out to completing the tender, I just wanted to change to say offer.
So
I'll s-
tender should be offer.
Should be offer.
Okay.
And that applies also on paragraph 76.
Yes.
The first sentence and the last sentence. That's the only corrections, Chair. My apologies for the corrections.
Thank you.
So now this statement incorporating these changes, do you confirm the contents of this statement?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Gianni, I want you to give us your personal history as to who you are and your education background. Shortly, be as crisp and short as you can.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Madota John Gianni. I'm also known as Benny, which is my nickname, which I also use as my business trading name. I'm an adult, male entrepreneur or businessman, and currently a shareholder and director of SVI, which is Special Vehicle Innovation, and SME, Specialist Mechanical Engineers, amongst other directorships, both companies involved in the engineering, steel, and the defense industry. I don't know whether you want me to go through my educational background until when I started to work at 1985.
Not really, just what you consider important you can mention, but you don't have to go through all of that.
Okay, I don't
Yeah.
think, probably I think it's better for us to
Yes.
get straight to the matters.
Okay, right.
Thank
Yes.
you. Do you confirm that you were one of VR Laser South Africa shareholders starting from 2007?
Yes, I confirm, together with my wife, we own shares at VR Laser Services at the time, and the shares were transferred from my name to my wife's name for strategic reasons, but we are both married in common of property, so it doesn't matter who holds the shares.
And how much was your stake at VR Laser?
At the beginning it was 30%, and later it was reduced to 25.1%.
Yes. And you confirm that Mr. Gary Bloxham and Mr. John van Rienen were your
Partners.
co-shareholders?
Yes, I confirm, and I just want to bring to the chair that John van Reenen passed away last week.
And other than being a shareholder at VR Laser, what other role did you play in this company?
I started as a marketing director when I joined in 1st of April 2008 as the active executive director, and my role started as in marketing, running the business in terms of growth, and later on I became the CEO, Chief Operating Officer.
Yes. We're now aware that around 2013 or 2014, VR Laser was transferred to the Gupta-linked companies. I want you to tell us as to how you got introduced to the people who negotiated the sale of your shares.
The background is that At the time when I was in charge of VR Laser Services, my other co-partners, we were negotiating the reduction of the value of the price of the business at the time when I bought in. And part of those negotiations was about their exit package. So we negotiated until we found a deal together as the three shareholders that if I can raise 120 million to buy them out, I could have their share of the business together with the property of the company.
And which year was this?
This was in 2012.
Yes. And when did you get introduced then to the Gupta-linked companies?
So the background to that, I went around looking for a financier to finance this 120 million shareholder buyout. Unfortunately, I didn't come right because at the time the economy was not that well and most of the banks were averse to financing such deals. I then also went around to look for other partners who can assist me to buy that share. Hence, I also went to SABC, which is Swedish Steel Mill, which was our major steel supplier, and together with Denel, because I had known Denel and some of the executive members for many years. To me, it was making sense to have a VR laser probably being bought as a partner by Denel because we're doing quite a lot of work for MECAM at that stage with the CASPA program.
Yes. Do you confirm that VR Laser was a South African company? You had no other business interest outside South Africa?
Yes, VR Laser was a South African company and it was owned by shareholders who are South Africans. I can confirm that.
And how much value did you attach to this company?
This business, as I reflected in my statement, it comes from an era of the old Roymec Austral business, which was the defense company in South Africa prior to 1994. It was unbundled from that time, but unfortunately it didn't take its stage in terms of manufacturing of defense equipment. So when I joined, I made sure that we can grow this business back to its glory days and to make sure that all the role players in the defense industry have this available to them. So we regarded this business from other quarters that it's quite important as a sovereign capability in terms of manufacturing armored vehicles in South Africa.
Yes. In paragraph 27 of your statement, you mentioned the names of the Denel executive members that you conducted, one of which was Mr. Ria Saluji, Mr. Zwelakhe Njepe, and Mr. Stefan Berger.
That is correct. I had always direct links with the following people. Ria Saluji was a group CEO of Denel at the time. We've been members also of the board of AMD, so we know each other very well. And Zwelakhe Njepe was the business development executives of Denel, and also we knew each other very well. And Stefan Berger, who was the CEO of DLS at the time, we also knew each other very well. So I shared this with them to understand the importance of VR laser, that if it has to go to other shareholders who are outside the country, it will be a shame to South Africa to lose that capability.
Yes. By them, are you referring to the three?
I referred to the three gentlemen who I met on a separate occasions.
Oh, it was on separate occasions?
It was on separate occasions.
Yes. Then in February 2013, just take us to what happened there.
Yeah, in February 2013, we were exhibiting as VR Laser at the IDEX show in Abu Dhabi in UAE, and also Denel was also exhibiting there. As Zwelakhe came to me and said he wants to introduce me to a gentleman.
And that's Mr. Njepe.
Yes, Mr. Zwelakhe Njepe, sorry,
Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah.
He said to me he wants to introduce me to a gentleman by the name of Salim Issa, who might assist me in terms of my acquisition.
And how, did you know this person? Did you know his business interest?
I didn't know at the time, so I met him for briefly, probably about 5 or 10 minutes, just a quick chat, and he said to me we should rather meet in South Africa when we're back in South Africa to carry on with the discussions.
Yes. The two other people that you mentioned from Denel, Riaz and Berger, what did they say to you when you approached them regarding this?
They also agreed that it's very important to keep VR Laser as South African owned because it was a key player, not just for Denel, but for the entire defense industry, where the manufacturers of all defense equipment in terms of armored vehicles for the whole defense industry in South Africa.
Okay, what made it special?
What it made special was that it had high-tech equipment, it had high-tech people who were working for the company, and the expertise, which usually in a country like South Africa we wouldn't find very easily. If I can just compare, our only competitors were from the first world countries. We had other two companies. One was DEMA in USA, and the other one was called MTL in the UK, and a German company called Quanto Steel. So we were a really world-class business in terms of that competition, and we were recognized internationally at that time.
Okay, and then take us to what happened then in March 2013. You deal with that from paragraph 30 of your statement.
Just before I say that, I just want to emphasize how important we were. At the time, BAE Systems, which was the major manufacturer of armored vehicles, which was subsequently acquired by Denel, was our major customer because all their products were cut and bent at VR Laser Services for their South African operations and for their US operations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Then you may proceed and tell us what happened on paragraph 30.
Okay, I then met at the time when I returned back in South Africa with Mr. Salim Issa, and he introduced me to his partner Iqbal Sharma. They were both owning Issa Capital, that's why I was making that correction earlier, which
Yes.
was an investment company. They were keen to do the deal with me. I explained the whole deal to them. I explained that we wanted to increase our shareholding from 25.1 to 30% again, and also we want to participate in the property company, of which I was not a participant earlier on, and they all agreed to that, and that I was going to be the CEO of the company, as I was already running the company, because the CEO then, Gary Bloxham, had almost semi-retired because he was not well, and John van Reenen was not a participant in the business. So it was important for me to clear that first with them, to understand whether they want to be partners or not. And we all agreed, and they all agreed that we should do the deal.
Yes. Did you know Mr. Sharma?
I didn't know Mr. Sharma. I was introduced to him by Mr. Salim Issa.
Were you aware of his business interests?
I wasn't aware, to be honest with you. I only later found out that he was also a non-executive director of Transnet.
Of Transnet?
Of Transnet.
And your negotiations with ESA and Mr. Sharma, did they go anywhere? Did they yield any results?
Yes, they introduced me to Ernst & Young, who were their transaction advisors. We submitted information for them to do the valuation of the business, of which they came back with very positive results in terms of valuation of the business. And I was waiting for them to put an offer on the table. They delayed a bit. We were just getting worried that what was happening. And towards the end of September, or second week of September, I got a call again from Mr. Salim Issa to say we should have a meeting at Michelangelo together with Mr. Sharma and with the new people they want to introduce to us who are going to do the deal. I was introduced at that meeting to Neil Weimer and Jonathan Loeb of Regiments Capital, who were the transaction advisors. I was together with my my lawyer at the time, DMO Attorneys, to do the transaction.
Yes. And then on paragraph 35, you attach the two attachments, MJJ1 and MJJ2, which are the agreements that were for the sale of Denel VR Laser Properties and VR Laser
Services.
That
is correct. They put the offer on the table. We negotiated that offer. We had little changes to make, and they signed that subsequently, about 2 days or 3 days later, and emailed that to me for us to introduce that to John van Reenen. I didn't want to introduce them to the other two shareholders at the time because I was the one who was offered the shares, and I didn't want them to go behind my back to talk to the other shareholders without me being in control of the process. Hence, I made sure first that we both agree and understand the transaction, and we all agree how the transaction will pan out. After that, we agreed, and then I introduced them to the other two shareholders.
Yes. Was this deal finalized?
Yes, the deal did eventually went through, and the transaction was concluded at the end of December. I was not privy to that transaction because they did the transaction out directly with the other two shareholders. But bearing in mind that we had an agreement that after that transaction has been completed, we'll go back and do my deal as we have agreed upon.
Yes, and that was in December 2013.
That was December 2013. The company shut down around about the 16th of December. We went away on holiday, and I assumed that everything is still intact.
And you were still holding on to your stake at
I was
VR
still
Laser.
holding on to my 25.1% then.
Who owned VR Laser Properties?
VR Laser Properties was owned by Inyati Plate Processing, an entity which was later converted to VRLS Properties. The owners were both Gary and John van Rienen, who were the shareholders, with the 74% shareholders in VR Laser Services.
So you had no stake?
I
in
had no
VR
stake
Lasers?
in the property company.
Okay, thank you. And the deal was finalized in December. You still held your stake on VR Laser Services?
That is correct.
Yes.
I had the 25.1% together with my wife.
Yes, but you had negotiated with ISA and Shama, so ISA and Shama, that you will buy back your 4.9%.
That actually we agreed that I will get back my 4.9% because it was already in the value which was offered to me,
Yes.
was the value offered to me at a discount. So we agreed that I will get back to 30% as when we start back with the transaction, with the hope that with my performance, we can always increase my shareholding based on the performance rewards.
Okay. And then you attach the contracts that were signed with Bloxham and Van Rienen
That's correct.
as
That-
MJJ3 and MJJ4.
correct.
Yes. From paragraph 42, you deal with being introduced to new management at VR Laser Services.
Yeah,
Just
that-
take us through this. What happened here?
I was a little bit upset because I got a call from my financial manager as the company opened on around about the 6th of January in 2014. She called me to say there are gentlemen here who she doesn't recognize, but they say they are the new owners of the company. And she said to me, what should I do? I said, put them into the boardroom. I'll make a plan to leave home because I was still on leave then, to arrive and talk to them. I then arrived at the office and I found 4 gentlemen.
Yes. And
Two of them I recognized because they were involved during the due diligence. Their name were JP Aurora, who is late now, and Jacques Roux. And the other 2 gentlemen introduced themselves as Mr. Nuff. The other one said, I am Tony. And I was a little bit agitated because Shama or Isa didn't call me to let me know that there are 2 people or there are 4 people who are going to arrive and they wanted to talk to me. So I then excused myself and phoned Shama at the time and
Yes.
said, I don't know these people. Will you let me know what is going on here? Then his reply was that, no, they represent the shareholder. So just work with them. I was a bit agitated at the time.
One
And-
second. Zonaka. Just get them to switch off the echo or reduce it substantially. Okay. Thank you. You may
Sorry.
proceed.
this Tony, did you get to know who Tony was?
I later found out that Tony is actually Rajesh Tony Gupta.
Yes. When you were
So
negotiating,
I'm sorry. So when these gentlemen came, your percentage, what was it?
Was 25.1.
25%.
25.1, yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
yes. And during the negotiations, was there a stage where Shama or Issa told you that they were negotiating this deal on behalf of someone else?
Not at all. Even when I introduced them to the other 2 shareholders, that didn't come out at all.
Yes. So all along, you were laboring under the impression that you have entered into a contract with these 2 gentlemen.
That is correct.
Issa and Shama.
That is correct.
Yes. Then what happened then? These 4 people came to your offices and take us from there.
They came to the offices, obviously, after having a discussion with them, after I've called Sharma, that I must talk to them. Then they asked me a few questions about the business. I explained a little bit about how the business operates. And thereafter, the other two gentlemen left, and the two, which is JP Arora and Jacques Roux, remained. They then wanted to address the staff, which is my executive team. I said, with no problem, you can address them. But they didn't want me to be involved. I got a little bit worried again that what are these people doing in the company and what is their role in the business. At the time, I got back feedback from my staff that they say they actually have to report to them now. And that was what started upsetting me, because now my role as a COO and still as a shareholder was being eroded by people I don't even know.
So you said, Mr. Sharma said that you must deal with those people. They are new shareholders?
He said they represent the shareholder.
They represent the shareholders. Yeah. And who were the shareholders? Just remind me again.
At the time, the shareholder was Elga Solf, which was owned by Salim Issa. He was the only shareholder of that company.
Oh, at that time?
Yes.
But you had a 25.1 share.
Correct.
So he was the majority shareholder.
He was the majority shareholder.
So there were only two
shareholders.
Yeah, shareholders.
That's correct.
Okay. So in effect, he was saying to you they represented him.
Yeah, but it was not him telling me. I was told by Mr. Sharma, Iqbal Sharma.
Oh, Mr. Sharma, yes. But that was the effect of the message.
That was the effect of the discussion.
Yes. And as at that time, there had been no discussion that had given you an indication that some new people would be coming here and wanting to talk to staff about the company and so on.
Nothing at all.
Yes.
The last time I conversed with them was in December, Mr. Sharma and Mr. Issa. And the first time I conversed with him is when I phoned him after I had this gentleman in my office and asked him, who are these?
Yes.
And I was still waiting for him to actually have a meeting with me as shareholders to discuss how we're going to move forward with the business.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Did you at any stage then meet Essa or Sharma to discuss this?
After the January
incident, yes.
Not
the
at all.
January incident.
I never even saw them after that.
These two gentlemen spoke to your staff.
Yes, they spoke
in
to
your
my
absence.
staff. In my absence, yeah.
And you got feedback from your staff about part of what they had said.
Yes, that you have to report to them.
Yes.
On a day-to-day basis.
Yes. Yeah. Were you in the building?
I was in the building.
In the building.
Yes, I was in the building.
Did you have any discussion with the two gentlemen after they had met with the staff on that day?
I think probably I had after a day or so after.
Yes.
Because I was getting more actually irritated because I could see there was a little bit of hostility.
Yes.
Because I think I was being seen as being not cooperating of some sort. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. But you hadn't done anything to show any unwillingness to cooperate, had you?
No, I didn't do at all. And I even advised my staff to cooperate with them.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
And then from paragraph 45, you're saying you became very uncomfortable, and you later deal with your reason for your unease. Can you tell us why were you uncomfortable?
I was uncomfortable because I was the director of the company. These two gentlemen were not even directors of the company at all. And my responsibility as a director and a shareholder was being eroded without any recourse in any way. And that's why I was a little bit uncomfortable. Not little bit, I was really upset. Yeah.
Yes, and then did you then iron out with your issues with this guy? And
eventually, after I think about a week or two, I then got really to a point where I could see that we are getting nowhere. Because those other two gentlemen are not coming back because they said they will arrange a meeting to have with me and they were not coming back. So I decided to confront JP Arora and Jacques Roux to say, I need to get out of this because this is not what we negotiated and I'm uncomfortable with this deal. I rather want to know who I should speak to sell my shares. I want to exit. Otherwise, I still have a recourse to unwind the whole deal because I still had a cooling off period as a minority shareholder.
But what were your options as a minority shareholder?
The options were obviously limited, but I think the law still protects you in terms of certain things which were negotiated and they were not met. I could go that route. And that's why I wanted to know what is their standpoint. Do they want me to be part of the business or do they want me out? And it was very clear that they wanted me out.
Yes, and then from paragraph 52.
Prior to these two gentlemen coming to the company that you didn't know, your relationship with the majority shareholder, how had it been up to that point?
Which shareholder, the previous shareholders or
No,
the new
one
shareholder?
as at the one as at the date that the two gentlemen came to the company. You said there was a majority shareholder. There was.
It was Salim Issa.
Yes. How was your relationship with
There
him?
was no relationship.
Yes, he just bought the
He
shares.
just bought those shares and
then
it disappeared.
there was nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And then from paragraph 52, you deal with the sale of your shares.
Yes, I go
Yes.
through that sale of my shares. The first thing I was upset because I'm now being betrayed. Now I've got to negotiate with people I don't even know because that JP Arora said to me, you've got to negotiate with me. So I then put down my negotiation points because the point at the time was that at least I should be compensated the same as the other two shareholders which they bought out. So that was not even the starting point. He didn't want to go that route. He said, you are not going to get that money which you want. And we really got into a lot of arguments and it was really uncomfortable. It took me a couple of days and it really affected me because from a health point of view, it started really working on me. I had to sit down with the family and decide that I think we should just accept what they offer and get out of there. And that's how I eventually sold the shares.
And when was this? The time?
It was sold probably around about the middle of February when we signed the agreement.
2014.
Yeah. Just 2-3 weeks after all this.
But your initial intention was never to
The initial
sell your
intention
shares.
was never to sell. I was very passionate about that business. I had built that business literally from just a steel service center to be a world-class manufacturing facility.
Yes, and who then bought your shares?
The shares were bought by a company called Crenshaw Investments. When I looked, the company was a shelf company. That was my first reaction because I concerned that who is buying my shares? If it was being bought by the other majority shareholder, I would have understood because he was a majority shareholder. And there's a new entity now which is buying my shares. Then I got assurance from the JP Arora that no, you shouldn't be worried. The shareholder of Crenshaw Investment is Western Investments, of which is a company which is well known because I think it owed JIC Mining at the time. So I was comfortable that I would get my money. Yeah.
Yes, and if you look at Exhibit W5A, Western Investment was owned by Duduzane Zuma and Tony Rajesh Gupta at the time in 2014.
That is correct.
You didn't say what page number?
Oh, sorry, it's
Which bundle?
W5A at page 142.
Oh, I don't really need to look,
Okay,
do I?
No, not really.
Yeah, okay.
that is correct. They were the
They were the
two
shareholders,
holders.
owners.
shareholders.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do you confirm that, Mr.?
I confirm that.
And then you attach the agreement that you entered into with Crenshaw as MJJ5.
That is correct. That's a sale of shares agreement, which also includes my employment contract, which I had to sign in terms of the sale of shares agreement.
Then, did you have any dealings then with VR Laser South Africa after the sale of your shares?
I didn't at all. The last day I finished was the last day of February, and they did me a small for my staff, and that was the last time I saw VR laser.
Yes.
Because I was also barred from talking to any staff for at least 2 years or doing any business related to what VR laser was doing.
What was that all about? Why was it necessary for you to be barred from talking to staff?
I don't know, maybe they thought I could probably start another company and
Yeah.
again come and recruit the staff and
Yes.
probably compete with them.
Okay.
Yes, you said you left at the end of February, which year?
2015.
Yes. Then from February 2014, when you sold your shares, and February 2015, what were you still doing at VR Laser?
I was still as a registered COO and a director of the company. They then started involving me a little bit in terms of asking me for my opinion, which I did give because I was still passionate about the business. And I was also very concerned about the staff because it's important for the transition of the business from one shareholder to another that there's stability. So I really cooperated in terms of making sure that whatever the business requires, I make sure that is done. And I was also concerned because there was no real CEO which was being handed down to the company to run the company. I raised that with JP Arora, and eventually, I think the second half of the year, they brought in a gentleman by Peter van der Merwe to become the CEO. So I then got comfortable that I can then take him around to go and meet the stakeholders of VR Laser, all the customers, all the suppliers, and all the other stakeholders in terms of what we deal with in terms of the arms industry.
By saying they involved me a bit, how did they involve you?
They involved me. I think around about April, they invited me to go to China with them, to China South Rail, with my technical director.
What was the reason for going to
The
China?
reason was that we are just going to explore and see what China Rail does and see whether VR laser can be incorporated into that kind of a manufacturing facility.
Okay. Are there any other international trips that you
Yes,
took?
I made another trip, but that was in terms of Denel inviting all their suppliers to Malaysia for another program which VR laser was involved in. So I traveled also to that.
Yes. The China trip was in which year?
It was in 2014, around about April, if I'm not mistaken.
April 2014.
Yes.
Yes. And when did you resign as a director of VR Laser?
I resigned at the end of February 2015.
2015.
That is correct.
Yes.
It's 12 months from the day I signed the agreement.
And how much loss did you incur by selling your shares?
Just from
you
a
can
face value
quantify
from
it.
what they paid the other shareholders versus what they paid me, the difference was close to 8 million rand.
And the difference in time between the sale of the shares, your shares, and the time when they bought the other shares was about how
A month.
long? How long?
It was just about a month. They closed the deal in December.
Yes.
I sold my shares in February.
Yes.
So it's about a month.
And there is nothing of any significance that had happened
Nothing
in the
of any
meantime that could
significance
have
which happened to the
devalued the
business.
shares.
to affect the valuation at all.
Yes. And do you know why they would have been prepared to buy the other shares at a higher price than yours? Or you don't know?
I just think that they were probably up to some other ways of maybe getting rid of me because they thought maybe because of the structure of the deal previously that they can force me out because they called for the shareholders loan which was always outstanding between the two entities, which was the old company when I bought in versus the new company, which was over 200 million rand, of which they thought that if they put that on my head, then my shares will be worth nothing. But they forgot that during the negotiations which I had with the other shareholders, that loan was also offered to me. So I had control of that loan. So that's why then it was in writing, and they actually, when they tried to threaten me that I can walk without anything, then I revoked that and showed them that they cannot do that. Otherwise, I'll reverse the whole deal.
Okay.
But I think the intentions were coming very clear that actually was not part of what they wanted eventually.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Gianni, would you please try and give names instead of using they
Okay.
or their?
When I say they, I'm talking about the other two shareholders, or I would say actually Salim Essa, because he was the shareholder of VR Laser Services.
Thank you. And then from paragraph 60, then you deal briefly with your interactions with the Gupta families
Correct?
during the 12 months in which you worked
Which
for
I was
VR Laser
at
South
VR
Africa.
Laser Services. I said I met AJ Gupta at one of the management meetings.
Yes.
It was the first time he addressed the meeting. It was the first time I saw also somebody from the Gupta family coming to address VR Laser management team.
Yes. Before the sale of your shares at VR Laser, did you know anything about the Gupta family?
I would have probably read through the newspapers about some of, I think they had AN7, and I think there was that wedding which was creating a lot of interest from a news point of view. Other than that, I didn't know anything about that.
Did you know of any links that Mr. Essa or Mr. Sharma had with
I
this
didn't,
family?
not at all. If I knew that, I would have probably had a different view altogether.
And why?
I would have then really had a different view in terms of if somebody is a proxy for somebody and it doesn't declare that when you have negotiations, then definitely the trust doesn't exist at all, because you are dealing with somebody who's already not sure whether he should be representing himself or not. And I would have had a problem. That's why I do say that if I had at least the opportunity to meet the Guptas and they said, offer me the business, then I would have had the chance to find out why they want the business.
Yes. And then who took over your position when you left VR Laser?
It was taken over by Peter van der Merwe.
And who was Peter van der Merwe?
He was their attorney. He used to be their attorney. From van der Merwe and Associates became their CEO.
They are meaning who?
Meaning, when I say the attorney, excuse me, he was the representing the other shareholders. I would just combine it like
Essa
that.
and-
Essa and Creyshaw now, because I would have sold my shares by then.
Okay. And then on page 20 of your statement, you deal with the Wolf Extor transaction, which was awarded to VR Laser. Can you give us some background?
Some
to this?
background,
Yes.
okay? I don't want to bore the commission, but the Ufester project is quite a very important project in the defense industry in South Africa. It's one of the replacement of our infantry fighting vehicle, of which there's been a lot of discussions from a landward mobility point of view that South African Defence Force requires that vehicle. So as part of building the capability and capacity of VR Laser, one of them was to position VR Laser to be able to supply as a key supplier to that contract. So the background to that, I had already made a lot of marketing efforts to make sure that I raise the profile of VR Laser to all stakeholders to understand that there is this capability. I still remember when Dinel was also providing some of the input for the decisions to be made. They showed also the capability of VR Laser as part of being the capability residing in South Africa to be able to execute this program. So I was also passionate about that program. That's why I worked so hard to make sure that VR Laser becomes part of it eventually, and it gets awarded part of that contract to execute.
Yes, and then on paragraph 73, where you made a correction, there is a contract that you were given in 2014. Can you give us a background as to how this came about?
The background to that is, as I've corrected on paragraph 73,
Yes.
I say subsequently VR Laser Services was shortlisted. There was a letter which came from Dinal, which is, I think, what you are referring to as MJJ 9201 or 5.1.
Chairperson, based on the correction that was made at paragraph 73, Mr. Gianni gave us some documents which I'll beg leave to hand up. We will insert those documents just behind Annexure MJJ5 to make the statement to flow. And I have numbered.
But the documents are not referred to in the statement, are they?
No, they're not
You
referred
should
to.
know.
They are not referred to in his statement. But I would like the chairperson to have these documents.
Well,
I may add them to our reference.
maybe what we can do is we can take them as separate exhibits and he talks to them,
Thank you.
or he later on does a supplementary affidavit and refers to them, but can testify about them now.
We'll do so.
So it can be one of the two.
I think we'll ask him to do a supplementary affidavit.
Okay,
and
all
we'll
right.
attach them to the
Okay, all
supplementary.
right.
But for now, I will beg leave to hand up this document while Mr. Gianni speaks to him.
Yeah, no,
He has a
that's
copy.
fine. So we want, you'll ask him questions about them, he will testify about them, but we won't make them separate exhibits. There will be a supplementary affidavit to which they will be attached.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gianni, the document that I have handed up to the chairperson, what is this document?
This document basically explains the process which was followed to request VR Laser to put a proposal for the Woofester platform components.
Yes, the letter on page 1.
The letter on page 1 is dated the 6th of June.
I'm sorry,
2014.
which one? What I have here is first the letter. You marked it MJJ51 for what it's worth, and then there is another letter after that, and then there is, I don't know whether there is a separate document or it's part of that letter. So is the sequence I have, is my sequence correct? Is it the same as yours?
It's the same as mine. I pegged this
Or why
document.
don't we start with the letter then?
Yes, let's start with the letter that is on
It
the,
doesn't seem to have a date, that letter.
there is a date,
There's two letters, Chair, yeah, I think,
Yes, there's the top letter.
yes.
Where do I see, where is the date for the?
Date is on the top right-hand side, on line probably 3,
it's line 4 on the top
Address,
right-hand side corner. It's in very
At
small.
the address,
Yes.
Yes, there's a date of the 6th of June 2014.
what is the date?
6th June 2014.
Oh, it's very hidden. Okay, yeah, so we can refer to that as the letter of the 6th of June.
Yes, and that letter is signed by Mr. Henk van der Heevel.
Okay, why don't you first identify all of them? Or the next one is also 6th of June.
Yes.
Correct.
But are they addressed to the same person? No. Eh?
Yes,
They are
correct.
both addressed to the same person.
That is correct.
Yes,
Okay, the first one is 1 page, the second one is
it's 3 pages.
3 pages, so that's how we will refer to them to make a distinction for the reader of the transcript. Okay, you want to ask questions about the 1-page letter dated
Yes,
6 June?
The 1-page letter that is on the first page of this document, what does it inform us?
It informs us that they request us to update a proposal which we submitted in April 2012 regarding the Woofester platform components. And they required us to make sure that we cover the following: the price of the armor steel excluding mine protection, the price for mine protection only, and the prices should exclude any jigs and fixtures which will be free issued by Janelle. Then the second letter,
Yes,
it requests for the Woofester platform components. It gives a background of how they are going to evaluate the successful bidder. And it gives the quantities of the number of vehicles they require and it goes through the whole process, how we are going to be evaluated as suppliers in that letter. I just want to make that correction because on my statement, I said it was a tender, and it was not a tender. It was an invitation to
Yes.
offer a price.
Yes. Okay, I may have missed. Are you making a correction on the one-page letter?
No, I made a correction on my statement, Chair.
Yes, I remember that.
That was the reason why I made the correction, because I was going to refer to these
Oh,
letters.
okay. Oh, thank you.
Yes, and you confirm that by making you this offer, Denel did not follow the prescribed tendering processes that ought to be followed.
I am not sure how they were going to do their process,
Yes.
but I think as the process or the complexity of the acquisition, I'm sure that they had to agree on some way how they're going to invite certain companies which probably qualify to manufacture this.
Yes, and this letter came from the division of Denel
It came
called
from-
Denel Land System.
It came from Denel Land System, which is the division which is in charge of the Oeffister project.
Yes. Do you know who was in charge of the procurement in this division?
Henk van der Reefe was the procurement officer.
Yes.
And at that time, I think it was Celia Malakela was the executive in charge of procurement.
And who was heading this division?
It was Stefan Berger was the CEO.
Thank you. And then on paragraph 77, you deal with your resignation, yourself and your wife, and you attached two annexures, MJJ6 and MJJ7.
That is correct. That is my official resignation and my wife as directors of VR Laser.
After this, did you have any dealings with
No
VR
dealings
Laser?
at all with VR Laser.
Do you know anything about VR Laser or Denel Asia transaction?
I do not know anything about Denel Asia, Denel Land System Asia, or VR Laser Asia, because I was not part of that. It was after I have left.
Thank you, Mr. Gianni. I have nothing further.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, Chair,
Are
there is
you
just one
withdrawing
question
that?
that came from.
Okay, all right.
Can I just ask one more question to Mr. Gianni? This offer that is that we've just spoke about in paragraph 73, do you know if it was made to other service providers or tenderers?
I think it was because at one of the technical meetings I attended together with my engineers, there were other role players who were our competitors.
And the offer itself, do you know if it was made to other people other than VR Laser?
I assume that because they were invited to these meetings, that they would have also been submitting their offer.
But you have no personal knowledge?
I don't have any personal knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chian. That is all, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Gianni, for coming to give your evidence. We appreciate it. If there is a need to call you to come back, you will be contacted. But thank you very much. I think the legal team will arrange with you for a supplementary affidavit to be done. But thank you very much, and you are excused.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chairman. That's the evidence that's to be led today.
Today,
We will start again, as you've indicated, at 9:30 tomorrow morning with the
Yes.
evidence of Mr. Saluji.
yes, had we known, we would have made sure that that witness was here today, so we could have used another hour.
Indeed so,
Tomorrow
Chairman,
is,
but believe me,
Yes.
we have quite a bit of work on our plates.
I'm sure
And we
you
appreciate
do.
it going back to the office
No,
to do
I'm
that
sure
work.
you do. How many witnesses have we got tomorrow?
Just one. I think it will be all-day
Yeah.
hearing. He's quite a, yeah, there's a lot that he has to tell the commission.
Yes. But do we need to start at 9:30, or should we amend that and start at 10?
It would be more convenient, Chairman, to start at 10,
Yeah,
if that's,
yeah. Well, as long as we'll finish. We don't want to start early and we then finish early. We would rather start early if we are going to be able to use the whole day. But sometimes it's difficult to say. So what's your judgment?
Chairman, so that I don't incur your wrath, let's start at 9:30.
Okay, all right. We'll adjourn then and start at 9:30 tomorrow. We adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Yeah, check. Yeah, that's all.